Lorraine Manellis. I'll be the moderator tonight. I'm on the board of directors for the League of Women Voters and also the newsletter editor, and I am retired and live in Hammondsport, New York. Just a little blurb about the League of Women Voters. The League is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. The League works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League operates at the local, state, and national levels. There are leagues in every state: Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. In New York, there are 60 local leagues. This forum is organized by the League of Women Voters of Steuben County. And I just want to add that the League is not exclusively a women's organization. The name came when the suffragist movement started, and it was a women's movement. But since that time, the League has been opened up to membership to all individuals. So all of you men that would like to join, applications in the back, and any information that you'd like about the League, our volunteers at the back table can provide that. I want to thank the candidates tonight for participating, and I'll introduce them. Mr. Bill Boland, who's running on the Democrat ticket, Nick Weinstein on the Republican, and Elizabeth Whitehouse on the Independent. The expectations for tonight and how it will work. This is a forum and not a formal debate. As such, there is no direct debate between candidates, and there are no rebuttal periods. Candidates are each asked to answer 11 questions. 7 of the questions were provided to the candidates ahead of time. The remaining 4 will be submitted in writing by the audience tonight and will be vetted by the League of Women Voter volunteers prior to being submitted to me to read to the candidates. If you would like to submit a question, raise your hand, and the volunteers will provide you with a card. At any time, if you feel like you have a question, raise your hand. The volunteers will be looking for that. The candidates, each question will be posed to every candidate, and the candidate's sequence and timing to answer each question has been laid out in detail and provided to the candidates beforehand. There is also an opening and a closing statement. We have a timekeeper, Susan Donderitz, who each question and the opening statements will be allowed 20 seconds per candidate. And 2 minutes, I mean. And, whoa, that'd be a quick one. And Susan will give a 20-second warning with a yellow, and
Finish
then
the sentence. The time is up. Or
you're out of here. It hurts my ears too. Now, the candidates are asked to be respectful of the views and opinions of fellow candidates and to comply with allotted times to answer questions. Disruptive or disrespectful audience behavior will not be tolerated, and those audience members will be asked to leave immediately. So with that said, we will begin, and I will read the statements. We'll start with the opening statement. Suggested items that you may discuss here are: what are your qualifications for this office and why are you running? And we start with Mr. Boland.
Do we use here?
You have a microphone there that you can use, and you can remain seated or stand,
press the button.
whatever you're more comfortable with. She's the AV person here.
That do it?
Yep.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us tonight. I'd like to start out by clearing the air on something. Last week in the newspaper, there was an article where my opponent, Mr. Weinstein, accused me of receiving campaign contributions, illegal campaign contributions. And I, in fact, did receive 4 contributions that were above the allowable limit. But those were not illegal. Those were contributions from 3 from Corning Inc. and 1 from a person who's done work for us in the graphic arts department. But we did receive those, but did not receive them illegally. And excuse me just one second. The contributions were not received illegally. We reported them. First of all, we reported them to the Board of Elections, as we should have, but still, I should have known or verified my understanding of those regulations, those guidelines, and I didn't. And a result of that, I made a mistake, but that's what it was, a mistake. I'm already.
20 more seconds. Keep on going.
20 more seconds. Well, I've blown this time. But anyway, I'm a native of Corning. I was raised here. I'm a retired business owner, and I love Corning. It's a privilege to be citizens of Corning, and it's remarkable, and this cooperative, comprehensive. Anyway, I'm going to give up.
Okay, Nick, what are your qualifications for this office and why are you running?
Great, well thank you, Lorraine. I just want to thank you and the rest of the League of Women Voters for putting on this candidate forum this evening. I know how much work goes into putting together a public event like this, and it's really great to be here and to have the opportunity to talk about the issues facing the city of Corning here this evening. I'm a lifelong resident of the Corning area. I grew up here. I graduated from Corning West High School and went down to Washington, D.C. to study political science at American University. And it was after moving back here to Corning that I really got engaged in local politics and realized just how important it was to be engaged in local politics. It really crystallized for me after I bought my house on Chemung Street here in the city of Corning and realized just how high property taxes were and all the services that the city provides to homeowners. That was when I started going to city council meetings, starting to get engaged on the issues, and it was from that experience and realizing that there's not a lot of young people involved in politics these days that motivated me to get involved and throw my hat in the ring to run for mayor. So, it's been an exciting opportunity. I've really loved the opportunity to just go out and knock on doors and talk to people and listen to them and engage in a conversation about the issues facing the city. So I think tonight's going to be a great opportunity to continue that conversation, and I look forward to it. And just to respond briefly to the criticism that I think Bill just raised with respect to the illegal donations, we can parse back and forth the words about whether you want to call an over-contribution an illegal contribution. These are the facts. 30% of all the funds raised by my opponent Bill Boland were obtained illegally. They weren't permissible. We can talk about when Bill realized that they were illegal. It was a year after he accepted them in his campaign bank account. So I think that it's an important issue. I appreciate that Bill says he's sorry and that he didn't know the rules, but that's a pretty basic rule when it comes to running for office, is knowing how much you're allowed to take. And it's concerning to me that Bill didn't know the rule. So I think we can talk about that more this evening, as well as the actual issues facing the city of Corning, like our roads and our taxes and all the other infrastructure issues. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Whitehouse, what are your qualifications for this office and why are you running?
Qualifications? None whatsoever. Anyway, I'm going to stand here because if I don't follow my notes quite closely, I will get through about 1/3 of what I have to say, because I tend to waffle a little bit. So I would also like to thank the League of Women Voters for organising this, and I really appreciate giving us the questions up front and giving us time to condense them into 2 minutes. In 2011, I announced that I was on a mission to save the world one compost heap at a time. And since then, I've been trying to inform myself how this could be possible. But it's quite difficult to save the world single-handed. So I'm turning to the people of Corning to help me. Corning is, by most standards, a really wonderful place to live. I've been here for 34 years and it has been my home longer than anywhere else. But it's not wonderful for everyone. We have people who are lonely and hungry and poorly educated and don't have a job and have substandard housing and so on. And also we have considerable wealth disparity. Corning seems like a very green city. Lots of grass, lots of trees, lots of parks. But we rely on fossil fuels. We still pollute. We waste we are terribly wasteful. In other words, we carry on with business as usual. And I find that unacceptable. I want the city of Corning to show the world how being nice to each other and to the natural world can actually benefit us all and make it a better place to live. Oh, it's me again.
Yes, let me read the question. What do you think is the most critical issue facing the city, and how would you address it if elected?
Well, I would say housing, and I'm quite certain that Mr. Boland will say the same thing and fill us in on all the details of the Corning housing strategy. Now, it's supposed to be a public-private initiative, but I don't see the public there. I don't see public as in the citizens of Corning. I don't see a way that this housing strategy will actually help those in most need of help, whether they're renters or owners. Organizations like Habitat for Humanity and the Southside Neighborhood Association are doing wonderful work trying to upgrade the city one block at a time. But it's only once a year. However, this is an idea that we could really build on, and I've got more to say about it than I've got time for. I also think that apart from appearances, we need to look at the efficiency of houses. I think that the city needs to develop its own expertise in energy efficiency and help people reduce their heating costs, which is a huge expense for everyone. If we want to address the issue of slumlords and the tax base, I have this crazy idea that maybe the city should just buy up all the distressed and foreclosed properties and then rent them out. Now, unless my math is really off, I think the income from rentals would be more than the income from property taxes. Quite often my thinking outside the box ideas go nowhere, but sometimes they actually lead to a workable solution. As my late husband David said, shoot for the stars because you just might end up with the moon. So that's what I want to do.
Okay, Mr. Boland, what do you think is the most critical issue facing the city, and how would you address it if elected?
Well, I can't narrow it down to one, but I have three that I think wrap into one. Deteriorating housing, aging infrastructure, and the need to expand our tax base to keep our property taxes low. In each of these areas, the city has a strategic plan that we're executing on, and as mayor, I would continue to do that. On deteriorating housing, we have a formal strategy in the city of Corning, which is centered around a strategy to public-private partnership. It's called the Corning Housing Partnership. And it's designed to address the blight that is invading many of our neighborhoods. The partnership is at work, and I continue to lead that effort if I'm mayor. On the infrastructure side, their needs are great, the resources are limited, that's for sure, but we'll continue to make progress if we execute on our 5-year capital plan and on our strategic plan. And that's without raising taxes through the roof or putting it on a credit card. And lastly, to expand our tax base through economic development, let me just review a couple things. Academy Place, a former school, not on the tax rolls. Now it's 60 beautiful apartments, and that'll be on the tax rolls. Not in the next year or two, because there's tax incentives that need to come into play, but it'll be coming on the rolls. Northside Blodgett, going to be 29 single-family homes that are coming on the market, and these will be property tax payers. And again, Northside Lodge, school, not on the tax rolls before. And then you have the old hospital site, where, again, it's going to be apartments, and it's going to be retail and a bank. Not on the tax rolls before, coming on the tax rolls before. So just in this housing area, you see how economic development can contribute to controlling our property taxes. And I think that's about it.
Mr. Weinstein, what do you think is the most critical issue facing the city, and how would you address it if elected?
Well, I'm going to agree that it's going to be really tough to narrow it down to just one issue, but there are a few that I think sort of top the list, and you've heard a little bit about some of them. First and foremost, taxes, property taxes are a huge, huge issue here in the city of Corning. Over the last 6 years, while my opponent Bill has been on the city council, property taxes here in the city of Corning have gone up by 20%. That's incredible to me. And when you go out in the community and you look around, are we really addressing the problems that we're facing here in the city of Corning? The answer is really no. We haven't made a lot of progress. We're kicking problems a year or two down the road. We're kicking the can down the road, and we can't continue to accept that as residents here in the city of Corning. It's what motivated me to get out there and run in the first place is, if not now, when? If we have to raise taxes by 20% over 6 years just to keep the lights on at City Hall, how are we ever going to tackle problems like the deteriorating condition of our water and sewer system? You know, we have 50 miles of sewer here in the city of Corning that was built back in 1907. It's going to cost between at least $500,000 to replace just a half mile of that every single year. How do we do that if we have to raise taxes by 20% over 6 years just to keep the lights on? The answer is we don't. It continues to deteriorate, and I've not seen any action to solving those problems in a meaningful way. We paper over them. We do what we need to do to solve the problems that are immediately facing us in terms of repairs, but we don't have a long-term strategy, and that's just not right. So if I'm elected mayor, I'm not going to promise you that I can lower taxes or that I won't raise taxes, because we've got huge problems facing the city of Corning. What I can promise you is that we will take concrete action to actually address the problems in a long-term sustainable way so that future generations have infrastructure here in the city of Corning and have capital projects that have been addressed.
Thank you.
Yep.
Question number 2 is addressed to Mr. Weinstein also.
Okay.
As mayor, how will you promote civility and cooperation at city council meetings?
Well, you know, this is a great question, and I've been going to the city council meetings for a couple of years now, and it's not always civil. Sometimes there's disagreement, and sometimes there's passionate disagreement, but I think that's democracy. And I think that my role as mayor is going to be to facilitate a productive conversation. You know, I think sometimes people get frustrated when folks express their opinion, and that's just, you know, that's just not productive. I think we've got to let people say their piece. We've got to encourage conversation about the issues that are facing the city council, and you know, I'm going to be someone that's going to bring people into the fold rather than try to exclude people or try to advance an agenda that's sort of been predetermined. I'm going to be someone who's going to bring all the members of the city council into the fold and try to give them ownership in the agenda that we're advancing here in the city of Corning, because I think that's the right thing to do. So in terms of civility, I think you treat people with respect and they treat you with respect, and by engaging the community too, to give them the opportunity to come out and express their concerns too. I think that's another component of having civility at these meetings, is you have folks in the community actually at the meetings holding their elected officials accountable. I think accountability is a key part of this. So.
Okay. Ms. Whitehouse, as mayor, how will you promote civility and cooperation at city council meetings?
Well, while it's true that for a long time the City Council has had a reputation for being contentious and uncivil, I haven't seen that. I haven't been going to meetings as long as Nick has, but about a year and a half. So I don't feel that it's a huge problem. Perhaps it'll be enough for us to insist that every City Council member wears a Be Nice button during meetings. As for cooperation, I've seen some bipartisan efforts, says she condescendingly, but I don't foresee that there will be true cooperation until we drop adjectives, adjectives because, what am I going to say? How you voted in the last election should not define who you are. What party you belong to should not define how you think or how you're going to act. I still have a lot to learn about the dynamics of the council, but I see no mechanism for the 8 council people to get together and just, have a conversation, just chat about things, throw out ideas, brainstorm. And I think that that's really quite important. I think we need more conversations between the council men and women, between the committees, not just within the committee, but between the committees, and also, very importantly, between the citizens of Corning and the city, and vice versa. These conversations need to happen early in any planning stage. It's too late to talk about it after it's already been decided.
Thank you, Mr. Boland. As mayor, how will you promote civility and cooperation at city council meetings?
Well, like Nick, I believe that you start out with treating people with respect. And in addition, I think that listening goes a long way. When someone feels like they're being heard, there's a bond that develops. I think we need to continue to champion what Elizabeth referred to, which is nonpartisanship. If you take away the petty politics, you remove a tension that just doesn't need to be there on the local level. Mayor Negri has been a champion of that, and I take his example, and he's brought calm and civility, by and large, to our council chambers. And also take, I believe that I've contributed to that. When I came on the council, I developed an idea called the Coalition of the Reasonable. And it was not a card-carrying party thing. It was just an idea that when things got contentious, people would talk to each other and act reasonably. And I think that there was a whole group of my fellow councilmen that joined in on that idea, and as a result, I think you do have a fair amount of civility, and I just think that we need to keep that going.
Question number 3 will be you too, Mr. Boland.
Okay.
Do you think Corning should have a renewable energy plan? Why or why not?
Well, yes, I do, absolutely. I think every modern progressive community should have a renewable energy plan. But we'll need to find partners such as the Southern Tier Central Planning Commission to help us develop it. The good news is, as Corning, we are experts in partnering with other organizations and agencies. And we'll need grants to do that as well. But the good news is that we can get grants. I think you may have seen in the newspaper the last couple of days that over the last 20 years, the city of Corning's gotten 234 grants worth $35 million. That's $1.7 million per year. So until then, on the consumption side, which is not renewable energy side, but our water treatment plant burns excess methane gas to heat our building and to fill our digesters. We're replacing all of our street lamps with LED lamps. Our traffic signals are all done with LED now, and those are on 24/7. And as a result of an energy audit that we did last year, we installed energy efficient lighting and HVA systems in most of our facilities. And our Parks and Recreations director is evaluating whether to put solar panels in our parks and our ice rink. And this will be a priority for me as mayor.
Mr. Weinstein, do you think Corning should have a renewable energy plan? Why or why not?
Well, look, I think renewable energy is certainly the future. I think we can have a conversation about whether we need a renewable energy plan going forward, but I think what we really need is we need a vision for the future, and renewable energy should be a part of all the long-term strategic thinking that goes into the projects that we have here in the city of Corning, whether it's the infrastructure plan or the capital plan or any of the other strategic plans that the city council and the mayor work on a regular basis. Renewable energy just needs to be a component of it. And what concerns me with respect to our ability to adapt to the technologies of tomorrow is that we don't have the resources to make meaningful progress towards actually addressing the capital needs here in the city of Corning. We've got parks and pools that are deteriorating. We've got a wastewater treatment plant that needs millions of dollars in renovations to meet environmental standards going forward. And we don't have a plan to actually pay for that, short of applying for grants every year. And that's a problem, because you can paper over decades of infrastructure that's falling apart with $100,000, $200,000 a year, but you can't implement the newest, best technology. You certainly can't implement the greenest technology if you're starting from the base of something that was designed in the 1970s to 1970 standards. And that's what should concern all of us, is that there's not a long-term plan for the future here, and I think that renewable energy certainly needs to be a part of that plan for the future.
Ms. Whitehouse, do you think Corning should have a renewable energy plan? Why or why not?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer. Of course we should have a new renewable energy plan. We should have had one years ago. And we need one more than ever now that the President has taken the US out of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. But that doesn't mean to say that the country is powerless. And that's a pun intended. If I'm right in thinking that the mayor can make non-binding proclamations more or less at will, on day one, as they say, I will issue a proclamation that the city of Corning will do its very, very best to abide by the commitments to the Paris Accord. But seriously, and this is very serious stuff, we need to form a committee right now to implement a plan. You talked about the wastewater treatment plant. It's absolutely shocking that the city is even considering spending $4 million to upgrade a facility that doesn't meet any of the sort of standards for the future. I hate to say this, but I have a plan. I actually tried to present this to the city council. No, nobody's listening. I've tried to see the wastewater treatment plant. I'm not allowed to, because apparently the city doesn't do that. It's quite possible to turn the city green without having to rely on grants, because I don't see why the rest of the world should pay for our problems. It's possible to do. As far as a plan for renewable energy, it's been done before. There are at least 3 cities in the country now who are 100% renewable. And there are 2 more planning to do it by 2020. We can do it too, and we can do it better.
Ms. Whitehouse.
There's me again.
Yes. Question number 4. What do you regard as your greatest contribution to the community?
The one that's yet to come. And physically, my largest contribution to the city is books, because I've donated at least a ton to the Friends of the Library book sales, but perhaps that isn't what the question was asking. My greatest weakness is that I find it really difficult to focus, because there's so many interesting things out there, and I go from one to the other. But at the same time, that's actually quite a strength, because it means that I have been involved with the life in Corning at every single level. Things that you really wouldn't expect. I've met people, in the corners of the city, and the dustmen, and I beg your pardon, the garbage collectors. So I really do know Corning quite a lot. If I have to choose one thing, I think it's my support of the arts. I don't actually call myself an artist, but other people seem to think that I am, because I've had 2 solo shows and I've been part of at least half a dozen group shows in Corning. I support both financially and as a docent the Corning Museum of Glass and the Rockwell Museum. I support the arts, I support the orchestra. And I buy art from local artists. There's just one criterion: it has to be in black and white, because that's what I collect. However, issues in the city are not black and white. And I think it's extremely important to be able to see the big picture. And if I have a strength, not this focus stuff, if I do have a strength, it's seeing connections, connecting the dots, and trying to unite people as part of the big picture. Okay, I've finished.
Okay, Mr. Boland, what do you regard as your greatest contribution to the community?
Well, that's an easy one for me. I'm a volunteer delivery person for Meals on Wheels. And that's so gratifying because I did my route today and I can tell you that 4 out of the 8 people that I deliver to, I'm the only one that they're going to see that day. And the 5 minutes that we have together means all the world to them and keeping contact with their community. Second to that, I think, would be my participation in Rotary. As a past president, I was involved in projects that include some great organizations, Camp Star, Corning Area Youth Center, Habitat for Humanity, Meals on Wheels again, and Salvation Army. And I think that those are contributions that I'm proud of. And on the public service side, I think being a key player in the developing of the housing strategy to tackle blight in our neighborhoods is something that I'm proud of. So I think that's about it.
Mr. Weinstein, what do you regard as your greatest contribution to the community?
Well, I've got to agree with Ms. Whitehouse that I hope my greatest contribution to the community is still to come. But I've been really lucky. I grew up in a household where community service was just part of growing up. My mom's in the audience tonight, Charmaine, and she gave me sort of put in my mind that community service is a virtue and something that it should be supported. So I've been really lucky to be involved in a couple of great organizations. Growing up, I was a Red Cross kid, and not all that long ago, I was asked to rejoin the board of the Finger Lakes chapter of the American Red Cross. Actually, from 4 to 5 today, before coming down here to talk to you good people, I was at a meeting of the philanthropy committee where I'm the chair. That's responsible for helping the Finger Lakes chapter of the Red Cross raise the hundreds of thousands of dollars that helps them serve the 9 counties in the southern tier in Finger Lakes that they provide so many important services to, whether it's the blood services or the work that they're doing to respond to natural disasters across the country. I think people think Red Cross and they think big picture nationally, but so much of that is local volunteers and the boards here locally that support them with the financial resources to get the job done. So the Red Cross is one of the great organizations that I've just been really lucky to be involved in. Another one is the Corning Area Young Professionals. I'm a member of the board of the Corning Area Young Professionals, and I just think that that's such an important group. One of the side motivations for running here was that we need more young people involved in politics, regardless of what your political philosophy is. And from my perspective, if I can send the message that, look, as a younger guy, that I can get up here and run a competitive race for mayor, I hope that will encourage more young people to get involved in politics, and I'm involved in the Corning Area Young Professionals to try to encourage young people to make Corning their home for generations to come.
And question number 5 will be yours, Mr. Weinstein.
Okay.
What role does a citizen have in the political process? What steps will you take to promote public involvement in local government?
Well, I mean, the citizen is the purpose of the political process, is to provide services through government to the citizens that we represent. So I think accessibility is just absolutely critical to representing people. It's why most of my campaign has been a listening tour. I've gone out door to door in every neighborhood here in the city of Corning, knocked on hundreds, if not thousands of doors. I knock on a door and I ask folks, I say, what can we do to make your life easier here in the city of Corning? I don't have an agenda. I don't lead with my pitch on why you should elect me or why I'm the greatest. I just try to listen. And I can tell you that I've had the opportunity to have so many meaningful conversations with folks over the few months that I've been running my campaign. And it's one of those things that win or lose on election day, I'll carry with me going forward, because there are great people here in the city of Corning and they're struggling. And they are looking for fresh perspective. They're looking for new leadership. And that's what's kept me going over all these miles of streets here in the city of Corning. So, if I'm elected mayor, I'm going to continue to do that. You can't just expect folks to come to the meetings and have that be the solution to the problems here. We've got to embrace social media. As far as I know, the city of Corning doesn't have Facebook or Twitter. It's the 21st century. We should be getting our message out on social media. And if we do have it, we're not doing it well. So I would certainly encourage the city to embrace social media, and I would also encourage the city council meetings to, let's start recording them, whether it's audio or video. It doesn't have to be something expensive, but right now, if you can't make the once a month meeting, you've got to rely on minutes, which are very accurate, not criticizing the minutes. I know that that's a tough job too, having been the secretary in a couple organizations myself. But I think that if you could put the audio and the video of those meetings out there for folks, that might encourage more people to be involved as well.
Ms. Whitehouse, what role does a citizen have in the local political process, and what steps will you take to promote public involvement in local government?
Well, I really like these questions because I think they're extremely important. The answer to the first one is unfortunately not much. There is not, as far as I can tell, an easy way for citizens of Corning to communicate with the city. And I'm afraid there's not always a chance of getting a reply, as I alluded to earlier. I have an unofficial campaign manager in France, which is a long, quite amusing story. And he told me that I shouldn't use words like conduit or a catalyst because people wouldn't understand. I think this audience will know what I understand, and I really hope so, because that's what I want to do. I want to be a channel, a conduit between the citizens and the city. I've said that I'll be available 24/7, banking on the idea that other people have to sleep as well. Any way of communicating that is possible. And I want to foster conversations at all levels, conversations and cooperation, and I want to be a catalyst that gets things started. But to promote public involvement with local government, the public has to know what local government is up to. And I think the city needs to be a lot more open. Yes, there are the council meetings, but in my experience, by the time something's got there, there isn't a mechanism for the public to have input that will change the outcome. So it's more or less a foregone conclusion. And to be more open, I think the city could engage in, yes, Facebook. I'm not so sure about Twitter because, I'm a early 20th century person. But how about a weekly column in the Leader, or a blog, or a call-in radio show? Anyway, because listening is not enough. You have to actually ask people.
Mr. Boland, what role does a citizen have in the local political process, and what steps will you take to promote public involvement in local government?
Well, I think first and foremost, the obvious answer is the role in electing your elected officials to begin with, and then engaging your local official. I know that I'm accessible basically 24/7. I publish my email address and my telephone number. I think that it's incumbent on the electorate to become involved, become informed. And one of the ways that we can do much better in the city of Corning is expanding our website. We are doing that, but we can do much more. And as Nick referenced, there are 10 years worth of minutes that are on the city's website. And then I would encourage folks to attend the city council meetings, but more importantly, and these again are public meetings open to everyone, is to attend the committee meetings. Oftentimes, Elizabeth, this is where the work is actually done, and it's more informal, and so you can have input at that point. And then lastly, participation on the city's commissions and committees. I know the mayor is always looking for people to participate in the process, and that's a good way to become involved. But more than anything, I think, is to become informed and to hold your elected officials accountable.
And you'll be up for question number 6, Mr. Boland. Okay. Should party affiliation be an important factor when electing a mayor and council members?
Absolutely not. We don't need, we have enough partisanship at the national level. It's got us all in turmoil and divided against one another. We just don't need that. On the local level, it's not about ideology. It's about working together and solving the community's problems. And one of the things that wasn't mentioned is I'm also running on the city coalition line. And the whole idea of establishing that city coalition party was nonpartisanship at the local level. That again, we need to be working together, we need to be putting the taxpayer before party, and elect the best person to the job.
Mr. Weinstein, should party affiliation be an important factor when electing a mayor and council members?
No, I think I agree with the other folks up here tonight, that, or at least with Bill on this one, that, it's all about bipartisanship at the local level. I'm a Republican up here who's talking about, infrastructure investment and renewable energy. So, we've got to tackle the issues that are facing the city of Corning here, and I don't think party affiliation really is that big of an issue. I think we got to be leaders. We got to be willing to identify the problems, articulate what they are, and try to build consensus towards solving them. And it takes bipartisanship. It takes going out and talking to folks who disagree with you. I think that that's something that's going to be critically important for our next mayor to be willing to do, willing to stand in front of a group and engage in an honest conversation about the issues that are facing the city of Corning. Do I think that, an independent line or, any party, an independent party or anything like that, is that important? Not really. That's gimmicks to win elections. What we really need is bipartisan leadership and someone who's going to put their finger on the problems here in the city of Corning and really work to move the ball forward in a nonpartisan way. And that's my commitment to you as a candidate for mayor, is that I'm going to work to solve the problems here in the city of Corning. I'm not going to just talk the bipartisanship walk in an election. I'm going to actually try to solve these issues. So.
Ms. Whitehouse, should party affiliation be an important factor when electing a mayor and council members?
Well, my original answer was going to be no, and then I was going to sit down. That's partly because I thought maybe somebody would say yes, that party affiliation is important. I absolutely agree that it should not be an issue, but unfortunately it is. You probably all know about the issue in the 2nd Ward last year when there was a tie. And that was decided completely along party lines. And I think that is just so wrong. I made a suggestion which may have been considered rather flippant. I said, instead of just appointing this whoever it is, flip a coin. That way, half the people are going to be disappointed, but they won't be disillusioned. They won't feel that they've been cheated. So, that is an example of party lines or party affiliation making a decision that shouldn't have been made. I'm actually very against the two-party system. That's why I'm running as an independent, and it's not easy. I had to wait until after the big boys had done their petitioning before I even had a chance. I had to get more signatures than they did. And there are a number of ways in which it's just not easy to run as an independent. Obviously you don't have the party support, but that's not that important. I might say that you don't get too much press coverage either, but we'll leave that one aside. All right, I won't go on any further then. All right, I'll be quick then. The great evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins has written, "What worries me about religion is that it teaches people to be satisfied with not understanding." And I rather think that applies to party affiliation as well.
You're up for question number 7-2.
Right.
Ms. Whitehouse, in light of recent storms and shootings, how can Corning develop or improve an emergency response plan?
Storms and shootings should quite definitely be part of any conversation about the future of the city. Now, the city of Corning and the area is no stranger to storms. I also understand that the Steuben County has a pretty robust emergency management plan. And I don't see a particular need for Corning to develop its own. Obviously, one needs to cooperate and consolidate and make sure that everybody's a part of this. Should disaster hit, we want to know that everybody knows what to do. Now, the city can actually do a lot to mitigate the effects of heavy rains through an integrated water management system, which again I've tried to talk about, but nobody listened. Last year I gave a public presentation on exactly this issue, very much with Corning in mind, and I'd be happy to do it again for the council, for the Public Works Department, or for anybody who's interested in listening. As for shootings, well, I don't suppose that we could just ban guns of any kind within city limits, the police as well. There are currently 4 cities in the world: Ireland, Iceland, Norway and New Zealand, where their police are not armed when they're on patrol. And those countries, their violent crime rate ranks between 145th and 194th. The US is 12th, and I think that's something to think about.
Okay, Mr. Boland, in light of recent storms and shootings, how can Corning develop or improve an emergency response plan?
Well, we do have a plan in the city of Corning, and it's not only for major events and some mundane events such as our famous wine glass marathon is covered under such a plan. The manager and his staff train on this plan constantly. It's reviewed regularly, and it's constantly refined. The plan emphasizes shared resources between the county and local communities. For instance, different communities will take lead on different aspects of the plan. Ours, for instance, is a lead on hazardous materials response. And it used to be that this cooperation between the communities was not as great. As you might imagine, at one point in time, communities were in their own silos and not responsive to each other. But those walls are being torn down by our public safety people. And one specific thing that we've done lately to improve our plan is that the City Council has approved new radios that dramatically improve our communication for public safety responding. So we have a plan, it's in place, our staff is constantly being trained on it, and it's being improved and modified constantly.
Mr. Weinstein, in light of recent storms and shootings, how can Corning develop or improve an emergency response plan?
Well, I think we've heard from Bill that the city does have a response plan, and there's emergency management professionals at the Steuben County level too that I know are consummate professionals, and I'm going to admit that I don't know much about emergency management. It's not a specialty of mine, but I do trust that the police and the fire department here in the city of Corning are professionals. They know what they're doing, I think that continuing to empower them, giving them the resources that they need to do their job is how we position ourselves to respond to whatever may come in the future, because you just don't know. So with that, I just would say that I'm going to continue to empower and trust the professionals in the city of Corning who do this for a living and in Steuben County, and I think that that's the best direction we can go in.
Okay, that ends the League of Women Voter questions, and now we're on to the audience questions. And Mr. Weinstein, you will be up for question 8, so these are off the cuff.
All right.
As a property owner, as well as a candidate for mayor, what will you do about the homeowner tax burden?
Like I said, I think this is one of the top issues facing the city of Corning is taxes, and they've gone up, and they've gone up a lot, and they continue to go up, and I think that it's going to be very tough to address that cost curve in the long run, especially as we see infrastructure crumbling here in the city of Corning, and I talked about that earlier. So what can we do? I mean, we need to look at sharing services wherever possible. We need to look at how we can be more efficient, whether that means bulk purchasing and working with neighboring communities to try to adjust the cost curve that way. That's something that we need to talk about. I think there's also innovative things we could do on the health insurance side of things with respect to how we purchase health insurance for employees here in the city of Corning and retirees, where Perhaps by working with neighboring communities and with the county, we could get more bang for our buck purchasing as a group rather than purchasing just for the employees here in the city of Corning. But I think it takes a recognition that just raising taxes every year isn't acceptable, and that the people here in the city of Corning are not going to accept that long term. I'm willing to tell you that it's going to be a top priority of mine, and that I'm going to do everything in my power to address it going forward. And that means asking the tough questions when it comes to budget time. And I think one of the other things that would be important going forward is, I've attended the budget workshops here in the city of Corning. They're not so much workshops as they are presentations from the city manager about what we're going to spend money on in the coming year here in the city of Corning. I think engaging in those conversations and making them an actual workshop where we walk through line by line what we're spending on here in the city of Corning and why, and how that's changed from year to year, I think that would go a long way to improving accountability in the city of Corning and making sure that we're spending every hard-earned taxpayer dollar as appropriately as possible.
Ms. Whitehouse, as a property owner as well as a candidate for mayor, what will you do about the homeowner tax burden?
Well, I actually own 2 properties, and so when it comes around to tax month, I feel it quite significantly. I think that one needs to approach this from 2 different directions. The first is a penny saved is a penny earned. We need to look at the waste that there is in the city, redundancy, and we need to improve efficiency, as Nick said, and cooperation with other communities for services sharing. I like the idea about buying bulk healthcare. The other thing is, I think that there are ways that the city could raise revenue other than through property taxes. That's something that I have thought about a lot, but it would mean a long presentation, more than the 2 minutes we have here. But instead of just saying, right, we have to get our money from property taxes, let's look at other ways. And what I half-jokingly refer to as, let the city become the landlord for properties that are in less than wonderful condition. I do think that might work. I also think that the waste we create, our garbage, the stuff that maybe gets recycled, all of that is only waste if you throw it away. Otherwise, it's actually quite a big resource. And I think we could create all sorts of small, micro, cooperative, all that kind of thing, enterprises to do the things that the city needs done without contracting out. Right.
Okay, Mr. Boland, as a property owner as well as a candidate for mayor, what would you do about the homeowner tax burden?
Well, this is a tough one because we have a flat tax base here in the city, and the expenses that we have are escalating in a way that we don't control in some cases. And when you have that prescription, that's a prescription for rising taxes. But one of the things that we can do about that is grants. Again, the city had 234 grants, $35 million, $1.7 million per year. And think about what your tax rate would be if you did not have those grants. And the city manager has done a fantastic job in spreading the grant writing capability and expertise throughout his organization. So this is obviously a very difficult situation, and I think that we just need to address it by grants, as I mentioned, but also through economic development. We mentioned expanding our tax base. If we're bringing in more businesses and they're paying more, whether it's sales tax or property tax, that spreads our tax base and helps control our taxes.
You'll be up for number 9, Mr. Boland. What relationships can you build on to improve our city's housing quality?
Oh, well, I mean, that's kind of in my wheelhouse because I've been working on the housing issue for a number of years. And as we brought our study that we did at the city and created a strategy going forward. The centerpiece of that strategy is the Corning Housing Partnership. That's a partnership between the City of Corning, Three Rivers Development Corporation, and Arbor Housing and Development. And we speak in terms of that as being the near partnership, but in terms of the larger partnership, we talk about all aspects of housing. So we're building those relations as we speak, and I think we can look forward to much more involved in that.
Okay, and Ms. Whitehouse, what relationships can you build on to improve our city's housing quality?
I think it's me next, question 9, right? Just don't want to give us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I checked your name before you stood
Yeah,
up.
no worries, no worries. Can you just repeat the question, maybe?
Yes. What relationships can you build on to improve our city's housing quality?
Well, this is a great question because this is another one of the really important issues facing the city of Corning. And what I would suggest is we go back to the housing strategy and we take a look at what the housing strategy suggested the city of Corning's commitment should be to improving housing here in the city of Corning. And there were 6 points. Enhancing code enforcement in target areas, ensuring that the city's zoning regulations actively promote improvements in housing, continuing efforts to convert multifamily units back to single-family homes, and timing public investments in adopting a vacant properties registration system. I think that's 5 right there. And the 6th is contracting with housing organizations for grant writing. That report came out December of 2014. How many of those things do you think the city of Corning is doing right now? The answer is 1. So, if we're going to take housing seriously here in the city of Corning, let's follow the housing study that the taxpayers here in the city of Corning paid for, and let's make it a priority to address those issues, because 1 out of 6 is not a passing grade as far as I'm concerned. So,
Now, Ms. Whitehouse.
there you go.
Thank you.
Okay.
What relationships can you build on to improve our city's housing quality?
While I think it's a great idea that the city has got a housing plan, as I said before, I think that there's a very large area missing, and that is the people of Corning. Just think what talent we have here. What if we got work groups together and they restored the houses? You can have you can have block parties, and the city maybe could do something about providing the materials that are needed, and then everybody gets together and they have a great time, and like Habitat for Humanity has been doing, but more than once a year. And it doesn't necessarily have to be city organized. It can be just everybody gets together. I really think that we don't need to go outside the city for talent and ability, and I think that we are overlooking the energy and the willingness to work of the citizens of Corning.
Thank you. And we'll be up for number 10.
All right.
Okay, number 10, Ms. Whitehouse. I am the father of 2 boys. I want to know what you plan to do to protect and enhance Corning's parks, rink, and pools to ensure they and other children have safe places to play and stay fit.
Okay, I can't do too much about the pools. That's
microphone is not working.
Well, should I just try and yell?
There's a backup here.
Okay.
How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
I can't tell.
Right, thanks. I can't personally do much about the pools, but I tell you I've got a lot of ideas about the parks. The parks are a really, really great resource and facility. And I'm not sure what the question means about keeping the kids safe. Corning is by and large a very safe place, at least in my experience. But I think the parks could be made a lot more, environmentally friendly. We could have activities in the parks such as a butterfly garden, or we could have mini wetlands with frogs and fish and all this kind of stuff, which is much more interesting for people to look at when they go. I think we need some form of community gardening And I don't mean allotments and that kind of thing, but a garden where people can grow things, where they can gather. And yes, it's very important to engage the children in helping this. We need to do quite a lot of educating kids in school about the things that they can do to create their own activities and at the same time improve the infrastructure of the city.
Okay, Mr. Boland. I am father of 2 boys. I want to know what you plan to do to protect and enhance Corning's parks, rink, and pools to ensure they and other children have safe places to play and stay fit.
Well, first of all, our parks are a community treasure, and we have to do everything that we can to make sure that we keep them that way. In terms of the pools, the city's currently evaluating the pools and the amount of investment it's going to take to keep those pools open. My own feeling is that the pools are identity of our community and relied upon by children not only of some lower economic means and an important part of their recreation. And yeah, I think one of the things that I think that we need is a parks master plan. We really haven't looked at that in years in a comprehensive way. We have a 5-year maintenance plan, but that's not makes a master plan. One of the things that I do think that gets overlooked sometimes is there's the physical infrastructure, but there's also the recreation aspect of it, the programming aspect of it. And I think that if you take a look at the City of Corning's programming for parks, it's second to none. So absolutely, we need to keep our parks fresh and clean and available to everyone. And in terms of the pools, I think we need to keep our pools open.
Mr. Weinstein, I am the father of 2 boys. I want to know what you plan to do to protect and enhance Corning's parks, rink, and pools to ensure they and other children have safe places to play and stay fit.
Well, that's a great question because, you know, I think it just takes a walk through some of our parks or a visit to our pools and our skating rink to see that they're not in great shape and they need a lot of investment going forward to continue to be a place where we can feel safe about sending our kids to. So with respect to the pools, look, I think obviously we're talking about millions of dollars in investment, and quite frankly, the city hasn't saved. They haven't saved for it. There's not money set aside to pay for the pools, even though we made an investment back in the late 70s and early 80s to purchase these pools. We put them in, but then we never started planning for when they would eventually need to be replaced. And that's sort of an endemic problem with city government, is that city government's not been planning for the situation that we're in today. So, you know, I've heard some proposals out there to maybe replace one or both of the pools with splash pads. I'm opposed to that. I think that if we're going to invest $1 million in an aquatic facility, it should be a pool that folks of all ages can take advantage of. And I think that that's important going forward. The same goes for the skating rink. I know you're going to hear that, you know, we've applied for grants for the skating rink, but we've not received any grants at this point. You know, you can apply for grants, but we can't continue to count on folks in Albany and Washington to bail us out of our financial troubles here. We've got to take responsibility for the issues and obviously advocate for the interests of the folks here in the city of Corning and do that aggressively with the folks in Albany and Washington. But really, you know, we've got to have strategic foresight here and be thinking more than just a year or two down the road. Otherwise, we're going to be in a situation where we've got to make tough decisions. This summer, Denison Park Pool didn't open because money wasn't allocated soon enough to get the parts that they needed to keep the pool open, and that's on City Council. So that's a place where we need to improve going forward, is having foresight.
Mr. Weinstein, you are up for number 11. And the last question, what are your plans for making the senior center more accessible to those residents who use computers?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, we're living in a digital world, and you know, computers are now not just something that just the kids are using. You know, it's folks of all ages. So I think that this is a place where we could be looking at, you know, public-private partnerships and pursuing grants to potentially, you know, bring more technology into the senior center. as well as looking at setting aside funds at the city level to potentially make that investment if it's something that folks think are important. But when you talk about the senior center, folks may not realize this, but the roof at the senior center needs to be repaired. We're talking, hundreds of thousands of potential investment needed there to keep the senior center open long term. And again, it's a situation where, I don't see foresight and I don't see planning there. I see another issue on the horizon that's, we haven't been able to address. And it's hard to talk about green energy or improving things long-term or adding technology or providing more services to folks when, we haven't even put together a plan to keep the senior center open long-term. That's a major issue to me. So I think that's why we need a holistic policy when it comes to parks, pools, the senior center, and the other resources that we have in the city. A capital plan where we actually set aside the money to pay for these projects down the road, so that we're not repeating the same mistakes that have been made over the last 20, 30 years with respect to not investing in the major capital projects here in the city of Corning.
Ms. Whitehouse, what are your plans for making the senior center more accessible to those residents who use computers?
I think we'll ask Linda. I think that this is a great opportunity for the library and the senior centre to collaborate. I think it's quite possible for people who use the senior centre to bring a computer or a device of some sort, but they probably, or they may not know how to use it. So we turn to the library or the college or somebody who has the expertise and put on fun. This is how you use your computer classes. I didn't know about the roof. I only use the senior centre for Zumba Gold and playing bridge, and it seems to me to be quite good. I think this is a great opportunity to actually put solar panels on the roof and use those to power it. You save money there. That yes, you'll have to fix the roof first. But has anybody thought of asking the seniors if they would actually contribute to this facility that is really great? It's just about free in every way, and that's great as well. But maybe there's an option to get some contribution from the people who use it.
Thank you. Mr. Boland, what are your plans for making the senior center more accessible to those residents who use computers?
It's a great question. I just want to say, Elizabeth, I think that's a great idea, partnering with the library. You guys do such a remarkable job in that area. I will say that Wi-Fi is available at the senior center, and Chuck King has put in place a program of informal schooling to the seniors. So I think we just need to expand on that. But I think that's a great idea that you had, Elizabeth.
Okay, that ends the question segment, and now we go on to our closing statements, and Mr. Boland, you're up for that.
Well, I first of all, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for being patient as we go on through our comments. I think that we all agree that we belong to a remarkable community. I know that when I had my business in New York, I would come up to Corning frequently to visit my mom and dad, but I'd also use the opportunity to go up and down Market Street, introducing myself to the merchants and reacquainting myself with my hometown. When my son Jack went away to university, I had the opportunity to determine where I wanted to live, and Corning, New York was first on my list. And I did move back in 2009 and came into public service thereafter. I think it's fair to say that we've heard a lot of challenges that we have in our community, but I would also say that we have extraordinary capacity to take on those challenges. And I know that in the city of Corning that we're going to continue to make the progress that we've seen over the last decade or two. So thank you.
Mr. Wentz.
Well, I just want to again thank the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's forum. I want to thank all of you for coming out and engaging in the democratic process here this evening. And I also want to thank the library for hosting us. You guys did a great job, and you're a great resource here in the city of Corning. Obviously our next mayor has huge shoes to fill with Mayor Negri finally stepping down. And the mayor's not here tonight, but he's done he's just been such a good representative of our community out around town. So it will be a huge honor if I have the opportunity to follow in his footsteps. I'm running because I think we need fresh perspective. I think we need new leadership. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend to have all the answers or engage in the political double talk. I'm going to tell it like it is, and I'm going to go down to City Hall and shake things up and try to hold folks accountable and challenge everybody here in the city of Corning to put our best foot forward and try to plan strategically with an eye to the future. I'm a 25-year-old guy running for mayor here in the city of Corning. I plan to be here for generations to come. I don't want to ever be in a position where I have to leave this community, and that means starting to address these problems and having a long-term vision to actually solve them. So I just want to thank you all for coming out this evening. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you. And I'm booked from 6 to 8 here, so it's only 7:10, so I guess we were short. But if you want to come up and talk to me afterwards, I would love to engage in the conversation. I would encourage you to check out my website, weinsteinformayor.com. You can engage with me on Facebook, or come up to me afterwards. I'd be happy to give you my cell phone number too. I always am happy to hear from folks and engage in a conversation. And I know it's tough to have really a meaningful conversation when you've only got 2 minutes. But again, thank you all, and you have a good night.
Ms. Whitehouse.
Okay, well, I'm going to just forget all the stuff that I wrote down here and just wing it. Nick mentioned the word vision. I think that well, as I said, I have actually no qualifications to run for mayor, but that's okay because I asked the former city clerk what the mayor does, and she said, not much. And it seems to me that there are 3 things the mayor does. One is represent the city, and I can do that. That's no problem. The second is run the meetings. Well, I'll have to brush up on Robert's Rules of Order, but Mr. Kirko will keep everything in line there. And the third is to set the agenda, and I think that that's very, very important. I see it a little bit like being the Speaker of the House. You decide what are the really important issues addressing the city. A lot of the things that we've talked about, that's what the city manager does. I would absolutely agree that there needs to be more participation in the budgeting. Well, I just feel that I have a big global vision. And you know what they say, think globally, act locally. I certainly have the global vision. I've lived in 6 different countries, and I can see how they all apply to Corning. I don't have the experience of how the city operates or what's happening now, but I really think that I can change the, I don't want to say change the culture, but change the tone. And I keep going back to this. We need to have conversations. We need to be nice. We need to be caring and compassionate. And I really do think that if we're nice to each other, nice to animals, and gentle with the planet, we can turn Corning into a really great place to live.
Now for my closing remarks. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Steuben County, I'd like to thank all 3 of you for participating tonight and for providing the residents with such valuable information. We have another candidate forum coming up, so if you're interested, it will be Wednesday, October 25th, and those are the candidates for City Council of Corning, Wards 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. There'll be 11 candidates, so boy, that'll be a fun timekeeper function. So we hope you will participate in that as well, and thank you again. Very, very meaningful conversation.
Thank you.